Hello there, and welcome to Nowhere to Hide. I'm Brian Hyde. Merry Christmas, by the way. It's Christmas Eve, but there's some information that we really needed to get out to you today, and it has to do with DEI. I don't know if you heard about this, but it looks like the higher education board is saying, yeah, we're going to do away with DEI at Idaho's institutions of higher learning, and that's great. But that doesn't mean that DEI is going to go away. Why is that? It's because there are shapeshifters of sorts. Maybe rhetorically, maybe in some cases, they are literally shapeshifters. I'm going to tell you how they work and how they try to keep DEI alive, even when they've been told it's no longer welcome here. Details are coming up.
All reporters are biased, the Idaho Press Club are biased, all media, newspaper, radio.
To be completely blunt here, Brian, and there are plans to expand
indoctrination.
That's right.
Well, Idahoans are also concerned.
Horror shot. That line would be moving a little bit farther west.
I'm like crying.
Nobody wants to see
dark money is influencing policy.
Once again, welcome to Nowhere to Hide. I know that, DEI on the surface seems like, well, it's just about being fair and it's just about trying to help people have the same opportunities. And yet, when you take a closer look and you understand what the cultural roots of DEI are, suddenly it takes a much different tone. And I got to thank Samuel Laird, who is one of the wonderful writers for the Idaho Freedom Foundation, one of the great researchers and people who is shedding light on this. I'm going to lean heavily on a topic an article actually that he wrote for this, which you can find for yourself on idahofreedom.org. The war against cultural Marxism in higher education is far from over. Cultural Marxism, you say? What is that supposed to mean? Well, let's dive into his article, and I think you'll find he has some very reasonable explanations here. First of all, Samuel tells us that on December 18th, the Idaho Board of Education unanimously voted to ban DEI offices from its public colleges and universities. The board resolution declared, institutions shall ensure that no central offices, policies, procedures, or initiatives are dedicated to DEI ideology. Now, this action may seem like a great win, he says, but it also largely fails to make meaningful progress, and here's why. Samuel explains the major shortcoming of the board's resolution is its failure to accurately define DEI ideology. It describes it as an approach that prioritizes personal identity, characteristics, race, color, sex, sexual orientation, national origin, religion, or gender identity over individual merit. But while this definition is partially accurate, he says, it doesn't properly capture the true essence of DEI or its effect on higher education institutions. You have to dig a little bit deeper to understand. And what he's sharing here is absolutely the truth. I only know this because I've been following this for about the last 30 years. What is DEI? Well, Samuel explains it's a set of governing principles derived from the tenets of critical theory, also known as cultural Marxism. And to put that in simpler terms, cultural Marxism is simply Marxism translated from economic forms into cultural forms. So while this term may seem like rhetoric, it cuts to the truth of what DEI actually is. As explained by the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, critical theory refers to the work of several generations of philosophers and social theorists in the Western European Marxist tradition known as the Frankfurt School. Boy, that's a course of study in and of itself. In the same way that traditional Marxist theory understands that everything is a byproduct of class warfare, cultural Marxism views every facet of society through the narrow lens of perceived oppression. So the broad goal of critical theory is to liberate all marginalized groups from all existing cultural, political, and economic power structures they deem oppressive. So accordingly, DEI must be understood as an institutional means through which to accomplish the aims of critical theory, which are coincidentally the aims of Marxism. So in effect, DEI ideology transforms the fundamental goal of colleges and universities from producing doctors and lawyers and engineers to instead creating agents of social change. And it's this transformation of our system of higher education into intellectual boot camps for radical political activists that's at the heart of the problem. The fact that certain populations of students are receiving special resources from the University of Idaho's Office of Equity and Diversity is only a symptom of a much deeper institutional sickness. Samuel is so on target with this. Now, he talks about why it persists, and it's the failure of the State Board of Education to correctly identify and address the root of the problem that makes its recent actions insufficient. He says our colleges and universities should not be training students on how to become LGBTQ plus allies or have their libraries directing students to watch Robin DiAngelo talk about white fragility. It doesn't matter if there's no longer an office with DEI written above its door if all of its programs and initiatives associated with it just become decentralized or rebranded, as has happened in universities across the country. So don't be fooled. Boise State may have shut down its Gender Equity Center and scrubbed its website of all evidence of wrongdoing, but it has no intention of ending its DEI programs. As explained by the president of Idaho State University during the December 18th meeting, their decision to restructure the Office of Equity and Inclusion is by no means an indication of its lack of dedication to DEI. President Wagner explained, "We have not done away with those programs. What we're doing is reorganizing where those programs originate from." Now, this admission received no condemnation from the board, making it clear that simply reshuffling and rebranding DEI offices is all that's required for compliance with their resolutions. And when it comes to shapeshifters, and in this case we're talking ideological shapeshifters, these are among the craftiest. Samuel Lair writes, "There's more that needs to be done. In light of Dr. Wagner's admission, additional measures are required to prevent college and university administrations from circumventing bans on DEI programs." As further explained by ISU President Wagner, instead of having offices lead the programs, we're now having our professionals work with student organizations and clubs to lead and administer and to run these activities. So therefore, steps need to be taken to ensure that student clubs and organizations don't just become substitutes for existing DEI bureaucracies. It's also essential, he says, to address the most common and durable source of DEI ideology in colleges and universities. That would be the classroom. Right now, University of Idaho, Boise State University, and ISU all include some form of mandatory diversity course in their general education requirements. And these requirements include courses whose pedagogies are clearly influenced by critical theory, things like sociology of gender, introduction to gender studies, racism and anti-racism. So in addition to eliminating all DEI offices, positions, and programs, he says students should not be forced to take DEI-related coursework in order to earn their diplomas. Now, this means some tough decisions are looming. Achieving the complete elimination of DEI ideology will require culling the degrees colleges and universities offer. And though activists will claim, well, these reforms are violating the principle of academic freedom, keep in mind that there is no legal mandate for the people of Idaho to fund gender or ethnic studies. Such programs have no academic merit. They're nothing more than state-subsidized echo chambers for radical leftist ideology. How's that for direct? That's getting right to it. But again, if the students really want to learn that, if that's important, well, I want to be a gender studies major. Great, go avail yourself of one of the many institutions out there that offers that. But don't expect the taxpayers in Idaho to subsidize that. The university should actually be teaching things that matter to the people of Idaho. And as good as we are, I don't know that we're quite on that woke spectrum to where, the thing that matters most is making sure that we have proper inclusivity and diversity and equity in everything that we do. No, there are still things like merit that matter. So to that end, beware. They may be, doing away with it at at least at an institutional level, saying this is not going to be a part of our program, but the ideas and the delivery systems are going to persist and they're going to change shape, and they'll think that they're clever in doing so. Don't be fooled. It's still about determining who's the oppressor and who is the oppressed, and then doing everything possible to gain control, to take political power over those they deem to be the oppressors, which it turns out are more often than not just normal people trying to go about their lives and not be dictated to in every way, shape, and form. One final thought here. This is some great news. Again, if you want to keep up on government waste in spending, here we go. It's this one right here. It's the pork report. It's finally here. And you can download it now at idahofreedom.org. This will highlight all the government waste, both locally and statewide, that your tax dollars are contributing towards. And there are so many examples. It's, some people may feel like, well, this is a bit of a witch hunt to go after it, but really, it's your tax money. And I mean, if you want to donate to certain causes, please speak with your wallet. But, as taxpayers, the state should be very frugal in, first of all, how much money it takes from us, but how that money is used as well. The pork report will open your eyes to just how wasteful bureaucracies can be and why we need watchdogs. Always. to be vigilant about how that money's being handled and how it's being used. This is another reason why we don't want to let the taxpayers subsidize brainwashing our students into becoming cultural Marxists. Anyway, watch out for the shapeshifters. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. I'm Brian Hyde, and this is Nowhere to Hide.
All reporters are biased. The Idaho Press Club are biased. All media, newspaper, radio.
To be completely blunt here, Brian, and there are plans to expand
indoctrination.
That's right.
Well, Idahoans are also concerned.
Horror shot. That line would be moving a little bit farther west.
I'm like crying.
Nobody wants to see
Dark money is influencing policy.